And so I was like, man, I think this is when people start killing themselves because they like get to
It's like, what the hell am I
this,
doing here? Right.
yeah, what the hell am
Yeah.
I doing here on this planet? Like, what's the point? And so I just started wrestling with that and started looking into, the world religions and just was curious. And then eventually I met this priest while I was in Ramadi.
Okay.
And he had been in the Tet Offensive. Out of
Wow.
150 dudes in his platoon, he was one of six to survive.
Holy cow.
And I was like, "How'd you become a priest?" He was like, "Tet Offensive." He was like, and he got wounded in action. And he's like, when the fighting was at its fiercest, I asked God to save my life, and He did. And
Wow.
so he was just a guy that I could relate to, and he was very analytical, very scientific, very knowledgeable, and I like that. So I was like, okay, I'll explore more of this. And so when I came home, my friend could just tell that I was getting worse. And so and here's the crazy part, he was an atheist. And he was like, "Hey man, can I take you to church?" And I was like, "What's that gonna do for either one of us?" And he was like, "I don't know, maybe you can meet a nice Christian girl or something." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what I need after a divorce, buddy." Um, And so, anyways, I started attending this church, and it's a church in Austin, Texas. The lead pastor's name is John Burke. He's since written a New York Times bestselling book called Imagine Heaven. He's just such a awesome, humble guy. Like, not one of those flashy pastors or anything. Drove around a beat up Civic for years. I've been to his house. It was very modest. He wasn't, and he had a large church. And then, the money he made off the book, he just donated to the church. I was like, okay, this is a dude who's legit.
Nice.
Um, and we began a friendship, and I just asked him questions, and he was a skeptic and a cynic before he converted and was an engineer. So he had a very analytical brain, and then he just started walking me through stuff, and I was still wrestling with that question of, okay, if God knows everything and if he's good, how can he allow evil if he's, able to stop
Yeah, a lot
it?
of people struggle with that. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so he just kind of led me through. He talked about like how it's an inconsistent answer. He said if God wanted to stop evil, he'd have to stop all evil, which would mean you and me, because each of us have done evil, whether in thought, action, word, or deed. And so the human species can't exist. And he
Right.
said, so we're allowed free will and to make our choices. And he said, God didn't create evil. He created the capacity of a world with evil, and humans have actualized it.